What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of SSPN Player Previews. And today, we're talking about a dude who is named to the sophomores to watch list, Ethan. I don't know if you saw that today.
Hmm.
I was about to say Ethan, excuse me.
Ethan should be watched.
ESPN
Yeah.
dropped their NBA sophomores to watch list for this season. And take a guess which two Spurs were on it.
Malaki Branham and Jeremy Sohan.
I like that. I like the cross eye. You really had to think about that one. That was a tough one. That was a big ask right there.
It was huge, yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, today we're talking about Malachi.
Hmm.
I didn't even look into the article. I just saw a tweet and it was like a picture of Malachi and Jeremy, and I was like, well, that makes sense because
Yeah.
with the seasons they had last year, it makes sense. It's a reason why Malachi, we're not doing everybody on the roster. We're not giving them a player preview, but Malachi earned one
Hmm.
after his rookie season, Ethan. So we could talk about some of the overall stuff, but I don't want to get too off topic here. Let's just jump into his strengths. What were some of the things that you saw last season that impressed you and that you feel confident about going into this year?
Well, similarly to many of our players, he improved drastically, Jude, from game 1 to game 82. Eerily similarly to how he improved from game 1 to game whatever, March Madness, back when he played at
Right.
Ohio State. Um, he came in with some certain deficiencies, like shot was very flat. He looked lost at times, but by the end of the year, he had become one of our best primary ball handlers. He could really take the ball off of screens or in ISO situations, create for himself and for others, especially when guys like Trey Jones were out with injury. He really had to step up and play point guard at times. He developed his 3 point shot to have a little bit more arc and became a very capable spot up 3 point shooter, as well as coming off of screens and taking some 3 point shots from that perspective. Um, so offensively, he's a 3 level scorer already, Jude, and I think we can expect that from him going into next season as the sixth man. I think we don't really know what the rotation will be, but we are assuming he will be that spark plug off the bench, primary ball handler to get us buckets as well as create for others. That's by far and away his greatest strength. It feels like he's already at a veteran level as far as getting to his spots.
Yeah, I mean, really, Ethan, the three things I had written down are the three things, or are just things you all you talked about in different ways. I wrote down shooting, shot creation, and then ball handling and playmaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had more like to go off of there, but he's a solid combo guard. Um, there's a reason why he was a projected lottery pick. I'll get into that a little bit later, but he kind of proved that throughout this season. And as you alluded to a little bit earlier, Ethan, I mean, it was just the way he came along was eerily similar to how he came along at Ohio State. We've mentioned that probably like 20 plus times
Yeah.
on this channel at this point, but it's just so true. Um, I wish I had more to add there, but it's just like you said, he came in and he already knew how to get to his spots, and his shot didn't look terrible. It was just a little bit flat. Got a little bit more arc under it, then it started falling like butter. That's what it felt like, at
Yep.
least. And you can go look. I don't know what his. Let me go see what his 3 point percentage is. I'm sure it's like 30% or something, but it's way like.
I think it's higher than that, actually.
Okay, good,
Pretty sure
because
it's like mid 30s.
okay, because I don't know who. I feel like I'm not trying to go too off topic here. I feel like I can't remember the exact example, but I feel like I've seen some slander on his shooting,
Mm.
and I'm just like, this is where once again I'm just like stats aren't everything. Okay, yeah. So this season he shot at all splits 30.2%. So he did only shoot 30%.
Damn.
But it's like you've got to take it exactly. It doesn't feel like that when you
Mm-mm.
watch the games, right? And it's probably because, as we talked about, one, he wasn't playing as consistently at the beginning of the season. And I can't believe I just exited out there because I should have pulled up to see exactly how many games he played. But I'm sure a little bit of it has to do with the shooting struggles at the beginning of the season and then coming on with a bigger role as the season progressed. And I would say that he was still more consistent in the mid range. But but I mean, like, unless you're like coming in like Corey Kispert or something, like most rookies who are combo guards are going to be more consistent with their mid-range jumpers than their three-point jumpers coming into the league, especially coming from college basketball. So,
For
I
sure.
mean, I don't have any, long story short, I don't have any concerns about Malachi's three-point shooting or his shooting at all in general. Um, and like I said, or like I was saying earlier, the way that it progressed throughout the season, um, it was very encouraging because it had nothing to do with his getting to his spots. It was just the ball going through the hoop. And once
Mhm.
that started happening, I really didn't have much criticism for Malachi offensively.
And just to temper any potential comments that may come our way, Jude, based on that take that you just had there, for anyone that's going to compare him to Lonnie Walker and how maybe early on we thought Lonnie's jump shot would come along and it never really found its consistency, there's a huge difference here between their
I
styles.
would agree.
Lonnie was not nearly as capable at creating his own shot in the mid range, coming off of screens as a ball handler. Um, and I would even say IQ offensively is just completely different players. Lonnie was more of a finisher, a slasher that masqueraded as a shot creator. And sure, we were all bamboozled to some extent. Like both of us thought that he would elevate his game to a higher level that he eventually did. Um, but I think Malachi is just a completely different situation.
We mentioned it early in the year, I believe, Ethan, or maybe not early in the year, but it was at some point this season that Malachi is kind of everything like Lonnie wasn't. you
Yeah.
know, and even when you're making that comparison, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, it's they're similar in a sense that like Lonnie was explosive enough to get to similar spots, but he would just never execute. And
Yes.
Malachi's less explosive than Lonnie, but he's more skilled and learned to execute, in the first season. I mean,
Agreed.
I don't want to say that he's completely down on execution. He's a 20-year-old player in the NBA, but we saw a significant improvement in execution from Malachi throughout last season. And I think we're forgetting a little bit of the time that he spent in Austin as
Mhm.
well. And I did get it down. He played 66 total games. So I believe that the first half of that season there were a little bit of struggles, but then I think also after that, I don't he played in Austin less than Blake did, but he still had a little stint there. I don't think Jeremy went at all, but
No, no.
Malachi did.
And it's very important to remember, like we've both said, he improved drastically. Like it wasn't just like a slight bump. Like he went
Right.
from borderline unplayable to one of the better players on the court, like top 3 players at times on the court for us.
Well, and we've mentioned this throughout the year. It was like, other than Devin, it was like obvious he was probably the best shot creator on the
Yeah.
team. And when you think about how much Devin didn't play this season,
Mhm.
there were a lot of times where, I mean, he was, if you needed something with 6 seconds left on the shot clock, I mean, Malachi was going to be your best bet overall. And,
Yeah.
I talk a lot about how much I love Keldon and how he gets too much hate. But I will say right here, this is an example where Malachi's, already a little bit ahead of him on that.
Agreed. Agreed.
But let's talk about some of the things that he can improve on, Ethan. And it's just going to be the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do, I wrote defense. Okay, I do have one offensive thing. I said finishing at the rim and just
Mhm.
being a little bit more attacking. But both of these things tie into just adding muscle and physicality. It's literally just his physical development as an NBA player. Like he's not going to be like, I'm putting finishing at the rim and being more attacking. Like, yes, you'd like to see slight improvements, but because he's not like fully grown into his body yet, and he won't be for another like 3 years, I'm not expecting that to happen, right now necessarily. Like it's going to take a little bit for his frame to fill out.
Yep.
But would like to see some incremental improvements there. And the other point is it's just also going to be an overtime thing because it takes time to put on muscle. And then defensively, he doesn't have a bad base at all. It's just, we got to pick something here, and that's where he could improve.
Mhm, and a lot of that, like the other part, will just come from time and consistency playing with the rotational players. Like, even when he did get heavy minutes last year, it wasn't always with the full lineup.
Right.
There were guys out all the time. Devin only played 45 games. Like, having a full offseason playing with these guys, understanding rotations, everything should, knock on wood, just improve naturally. But I agree with both of your things: strength defensively as well as finishing at the rim. And just to add one more thing, this isn't really an improvement as much as I'd like to see him continue to carry over the confidence he had in the summer league into the regular season because his confidence was on a
Yeah.
whole nother level. He was like an entirely different player in the summer league than what we saw last season. So if that can continue, more power to him. I love it.
Yeah, no, because you didn't. I mean, you weren't able to really see that. I mean, maybe you could say like the Mavericks game at the end of the season,
Yeah,
but really, just in even with that team, like it wasn't the same situation in summer league where he could just go in and like, okay, I'm going to take every shot because I'm the best player on the court. Like
yeah,
he just didn't have that opportunity during the regular season. So that is an improvement. Like that mentality, if he that is an improvement in his mentality, I would say. So if
yeah.
that can continue, that's something we would definitely um, like to see. I wish I had more on his defense, Ethan, but I
There's
mean,
really not much to
I
say.
because it's not terrible. Like that, there's some times where he got beat that I definitely can remember in my head, but it's like, yeah, most
Everybody
rookies who
is.
are 190 pounds are probably going to get beat,
Mhm.
this ties into the Keldon thing that I've talked about before, and especially with Malachi, who's even younger. I just believe in the Spurs coaching staff to instill good defensive habits in him.
Yeah, there are very few rookies that come into the league defensively
Right.
adequate. Like you're like that has to be your specialty coming out of college. Jeremy Sohan is a perfect example. That was like his thing, but he
It's pretty
really didn't
crazy.
have like that many other. Like everyone's like, okay, offensively, right now, not much, if at all. But defensively, he's good to go. Like that's like how it has to be
I
for some reason.
completely agree. Think about Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
another
that's
one.
another one, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying Jeremy is the same
No, but
offensively as Matisse, but
yeah, but your point
when,
comes across.
yeah, yeah. So should be a good year for Malachi. I'm excited to see what role he's going to play this season. I'm not going to speculate it on it because we're just going to have to wait and find out. But
Hmm.
and this is kind of, you could echo this with literally everybody on the team. It's kind of what you mentioned a little bit earlier, but I'm just excited to see him with some consistency around him.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, here is, I know that was kind of a little bit of final thoughts there, but I forgot I did write this down, so I'm going to read it.
Please.
Malachi showed why he was a projected lottery pick heading into last year's draft. As Ethan and I have mentioned so many times, he improved in an eerily similar fashion to his freshman season at Ohio State. Malachi seems to already have the skills to be a three-level scorer, something you said earlier, and has a solid defensive base that the Spurs can continue to hone. This is the thing that I forgot to mention, Ethan, that I wanted to mention in this episode. Malachi might be the next Spurs late first round draft pick combo guard to emerge like a DeJounte or a Derek White.
Mm,
I'm not saying their games are necessarily the same. I'm just saying that he's a combo guard that the Spurs picked up in the 20s that kind of fell. Like, I mean, even Derek and DeJounte were rated higher than where they were picked. Obviously, Malachi was at 20 and they were at 29, but it's a similar fashion in a combo guard that the Spurs,
yeah.
stole in the draft. And now let's see what he ends up becoming. And when I thought about that, dude, there were a lot of, I see more comparisons or more similarities with Derek. Obviously, Malachi's different than both of those guys, but I kind of saw, like, my brain started running a little bit when I thought about that. I see it's going to be, Malachi is going to be Malachi in his own way. And I think he might even, well, I don't know. You never know how things are going to work out. But he may even have a higher ceiling than both of those guys. But there's a lot of similarities kind of in how they mold them. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You kind of see it?
I definitely see it. I do want to say though, I think that he has a higher ceiling than both of those guys personally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, for sure. And like when you think about a Derek, obviously he's a more natural playmaker and a defender, where Malachi is more of a scorer and a shooter. But still, that there's a lot of, he's just their little combo guard that they're going to get to mold, and
mhm,
and they might have messed up a little bit, giving us a little too much talent. Ethan, we'll have to see though. We'll have
mm,
to see.
we will. I tell you what, the matchups between him and Cam Whitmore are going to be pretty interesting.
Cam Whitmore. I know who that is. I'm just like, is he going to play the two for the Rockets?
Well, he's kind of I don't know if he'll play the 2 or the 3, but he's going to be coming off the bench. And
Okay,
similarly, he
very good
fell
point.
to them. Malachi fell to us.
Okay, I'm seeing. You're right. I see what you're saying. And he was at 22.
Was he at 20? I can't
I'm
remember
pretty
exactly where
sure.
he
I'm
was,
pretty
but
sure he was exactly at 20. I'm gonna confirm that. Weird fact that I would remember. Um, but yes.
I don't even know if their games are even that similar, but I just think it's funny that they're both gonna be in kinda similar
No,
roles
that's a good point.
on rival teams that both fell in the draft.
Right. Right. No, that's it. That I didn't think of it that way, but now that you're putting it completely like that, they will be two. Yeah, I that'll be interesting to watch as their years progress, because that could be two, teams with young cores kind of getting a steal there. So that will be interesting to watch. It might be like the six-man battle of Texas. I don't know.
Yep. It's like the old, Manu versus Jason Terry
There you go.
contests.
There you go. Did obviously he was on the Mavericks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did Who am I thinking of? Was there ever like a sixth man? No, I'm
Eric Gordon, Lou Williams, that was
okay.
later. Manu was
That
old.
was that was later. I was actually just Shane Battier popped in my mind, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's that's way back. That's before the LeBron
Did he
days.
start, though? I think he started.
Yeah, I think he did. I think you're right.
Kyle
For some,
Lowry started. I was trying to think about that era too. I was
because
like, "Who?"
did Shane Battier came off the bench with the Heat though, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's where
Well,
I got that. That's where I got that confused.
yes.
Yeah,
Sometimes he started at the small ball 4, I think,
right.
occasionally.
Yeah,
I don't know.
for the
It's
most
far.
part.
It's a long time ago.
For some reason, I was thinking Manu and him with the Rockets. I don't know. I was trying to figure out some other comparison, but it didn't work there, Ethan.
All
Anyways,
good.
final thought. Any final thoughts on Malachi?
Extremely excited. I think I had him at what, 3,
Hmm.
as far as my potential.
Yes,
Yeah, so I'm obviously very high on him. I think this is going to be a big season for him.
I'm really excited, Ethan. I'm really excited. There's a reason that the NBA is actually giving some love, or not the NBA, excuse me. ESPN
Yeah,
is giving some love to him and Jeremy, because even with Wembanyama on the team, like, for them to recognize that after last year is saying something, because you could maybe go back throughout the years and you could say maybe Keldon should have been on that list when it came out, and I don't know, maybe he was, but I think y'all get the point. We don't always get the recognition, and the national types are seeing it, so that means it's for real. If you like the content, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button below. And if you want to stay updated with the show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. Tell us what you guys think about Malachi's upcoming sophomore season in the comments below, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.